Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Everybody can hear me?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
All right, anyone wanted me to test this out?
Yeah. And then,
Going to do a little karaoke. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Mark Beatty, volunteer firefighter at the Rutherford Fire Company right down the street, your neighbors. We do a lot of work with you guys. We love doing it. And today we're just going to go over some stuff with fire prevention. People talk about fire safety. I like to do the prevention part. Prevent it so you don't have to do things to be safe. You prevent it, you're halfway there. Just a stat that's I want you to put your minds around. Every day, 7 people in the United States die due to a fire. 350,000 houses burn every year in a fire. Just some numbers to think about. So let me tell you the most common ways that a fire starts, and that's why I want to start our conversation and help you guys understand, hey, what am I doing to be safe and keeping my family safe? Anybody want to guess what the #1 cause of fires is? Any guesses?
Cooking.
Cooking is 48% of fires in the United States in a house starts with cooking. 48%, that's almost half. Why does it happen? I can tell you most of it is it's unattended. I put something on, I walk away. Happens all the time. I can tell you I personally go on about 24 fires a year just for that. Right around here. Happens all the time. What can you do to prevent it?
Don't walk away.
Don't walk away. Keep your stove clean. You would not believe it. I don't know how you guys were when I was in college. You know, I wouldn't have even eaten anything off my stove, but it was a fire hazard. Inside the ovens, stoves, so cleanliness. As we go through these other ones too, I'm going to tell you what do you do when you have a fire. How do you put it out? I will tell you the one thing you want to keep in mind, especially with cooking, you're most often cooking with grease. Grease and water do not match. Do not ever throw water on a grease fire, because you know what's going to happen? It's going to explode. In fact, October 12th, we have a free open house at the fire company. We're going to show you how to do that. We're going to set a pan on fire and throw water on it, show you what happens. It's not good. So how do you put out a fire if it's a grease fire?
baking soda?
Baking soda? Salt?
Fire extinguisher.
Lid on it? Turn off the fire? How about this, a wet tea towel? Now it's not going to put it out 100%. Yeah, it has water on it, but you're not splashing around, but you're smothering it. Remember the 3 things you have with the fire. You have heat, you have oxygen, you have a fuel. You take one of those away, you're going to put out your fire. So covering it with a tea towel, believe it or not. Somebody mentioned earlier, one of the other common causes, believe it or not, smoking in bed. Not just smoking anywhere, but in bed. Very, very common. 13% of fires come from smoking in bed. And I want to tell you, of those 13%, 74% of those people die. You're in bed, smoking, watching TV, you fall asleep. So yeah, just simple stuff you don't think about. So smoking becomes part of your life. It's like an extension of your hand, and you get complacent with it. So something, it makes you healthy too, right, Ron? No smoking.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I just passed my bone density thing, so I'm
all right, man, you're good. Congratulations. Good to hear. Third most common thing is, so I'm just going to put it in general electrical stuff, appliances, small appliances, frayed wires. One of the most common things that I run into is microwaves. Why is that? People leave stuff in too long, catches on fire. I go in to warm up my coffee for 1 minute 55 seconds, but I make it 150 minutes. What happens then? So appliances, toasters are another one. Do you think every time you put a piece of toast in, you got some crumbs? Very, very common. How do you prevent it? Okay. So again, awareness. Keep your stuff clean. Every once in a while, just do an inspection and say, hey, is my wire frayed? I love coffee. It's probably why I'm jittery all the time. But I grind my own coffee. I zapped myself last Christmas because my coffee little grinder had a little slit in the wire, and I zapped myself. Thank God I found that, but just check your equipment. You're using it all the time. Another thing too, especially with large appliances. Okay, one of the most common things, again, goes back to your kitchen fires, stove and oven. Second most common appliance fire? It's drier. Why a dryer? Lint burns really easy. Did you ever take a ball of lint, put a match to it? It's a great way to start a fire. So I encourage people at least 3 times, 4 times a year, every quarter, clean your dryer. And I'm not just talking about the tube that goes outside. You gotta clean that. You got the little screen, clean that. Get like a really thin tubed vacuum, get down in where that screen goes. Lint, it doesn't take much for lint. And you get a little electrical spark, it'll set it off. Also make sure that the exhaust that's going out the door is not blocked up. Biggest cause of lint fires is, I don't know about you guys, but I have a little basket outside with a little screen on it, catches the lint. All right. Most of the lint fires we go to, that's blocked up. You can't even get any exhaust out of it. So, lint fires. A little rule of thumb when it comes to appliances. Don't ever add more than 1 appliance per outlet. Even toasters. These things hog up a lot of electricity. Very easy to overload. Okay. And lastly, on electrical stuff, one of the other common causes is either faulty wiring or, people think they're professional electricians. We get a lot of fires from that, believe it or not. It's not so much even the old electricity, the old tube and knob. Any tube and knob guys got the ceramic? We still see that around here, believe it or not. That's safer than people doing their own electricity. So how do you put out an electrical fire? I'll give you a couple hints. Main thing is if it's possible, turn off the power source. It's the main thing you're going to do. Otherwise, it's just going to keep sparking, right? Very few times PP&L turns off the electric, unless there's a storm. Do you want to put water on electricity? No, you get zapped. You have less hair than I do if you do that. So how do I put out an electrical fire? Let's say I can't get to the electrical source. Okay? Well, one thing you can do is it's something called a Class B, that's Bravo, extinguisher. And it's not water, it's a powder. It's a chemical, dry chemical powder. So Class B. Class B is good for a lot of stuff. Class B is good for grease fires, for electrical fires. If it's wood and paper, use water. If it's electric and oil, use Class B dry chem. It's funny, and I'll talk a little more about, things you can put in your house. I always hear, well, I don't have the money. These things combined, you're talking less than 50 bucks. So everybody has to make a decision. How important is my family? How important is my house? How important is my neighborhood to spend 50 bucks? Okay, so the next one, believe it or not, grills, grill fires. How many people clean their grill every time they use it? 2 people, 3
When you
people.
say clean it, I brush.
I mean, get the gunk out, get the grease out and everything else. Yeah, and I don't either,
That's once in a
I think I'm smart when I let it burn for like 15 minutes after I'm done cooking and then it's all flaming. So grill fires, but why are grill fires, why are they a leading cause? It's near something flammable. I can tell you one of the biggest things that happens with a grill fire, especially in Chatham Glen, you're near the house, next thing you know your vinyl's on fire. Keep your stuff away from anything flammable, even a bush. We usually recommend minimum 5 feet. A bush will catch on fire, it gets hot enough. It will. You get a grease splatter, grease will burn anything. Again, how do you put that out? You don't put water on it. Best thing you can do is at least shut the lid if you have a Class B chemical extinguisher. Hit it with that. Salt, baking powder, etc. So, here's the one nobody ever hears about. 9-volt batteries. You ever put a 9-volt in your tongue? I'm just kidding. This isn't that bad. But I'll tell you what. You store this in, I have a little junk drawer at home. Who has a little junk drawer with all kinds of tools and batteries and matches and God knows what, right? You have this out of a pack and touch something metal, you've now created a current, right? What if I throw it away and it touches something metal or something wet? There's still enough current in there that that's going to conduct a current. 9-volt batteries are more of a cause of fires than people expected. You wouldn't think it's so little. You think, oh, it's done. It doesn't work anymore. Throw it away. It's not true. So how can you at least protect yourself with this? I always recommend. I know you probably get 2 or 3, 4 of these in a pack, right? I don't know about you, but I open the whole pack. It's like Christmas. I got one, and I throw the other ones in the drawer. As much as possible, try to keep it in the pack. If you're throwing it away, take a piece of duct tape, put it over the nodes. You can't conduct anything. So, yeah, it's really odd. A lot of people don't know about this, but it's out there. So those are things. Those are the most common causes of fires. Try to give you some ideas on how to extinguish it. This is sort of the prevention part now. If you can prevent it from happening, that's great. It's funny, people talk about stop, drop, and roll, but you're not preventing it. That's after something's caught on fire, right? So a couple of things for prevention. Smoke alarm. Smoke alarms save people's lives by 43% versus those that don't have them. Here's an amazing story. Of all the house fires where there was a smoke alarm, 35% of the smoke alarms were not working because they didn't have a battery in them. Wow. I tell people, minimum, every 6 months, just push the button. Now this one's dead here. You push a little button on it, it'll beep. It means your battery's good. If you're not pushing the button and you hear a periodic beep, you're beep.
Yeah, right.
Honey, what's going on? Beep. My wife's messing with me. You know, check it every month. But I tell people minimum every 6 months, change your battery. They're cheap. Smoke alarms are cheap. There's a couple different types of smoke alarms. There's something called photoelectric. It's basically a little LED light points against a mirror. If smoke gets in your house and it affects that light, it'll trip it off. And there's another one called an ionizing smoke alarm. That actually has a little piece of radioactive chip in it. And if smoke gets in the air, it'll attach to one of those little radioactive ions and it'll interrupt the electrical flow. Now, we basically, my recommendation is photoelectric is something, if you have a smoldering fire, and this just happened about 3 months ago. People over here off of Elk Street were working on a house. They were working with a lot of, I think they were varnishing the floors. They had a bunch of rags. You heard of internal combustion? It's real. An ionizing smoke alarm would have worked, but a better one would have been a photoelectric. Because a photoelectric sees the smoke in the air. So if something's smoldering, it's not a fire like that right away, but if it's smoldering, a photoelectric will pick that up a little better. And most fires don't usually start just like that. They smolder. Maybe a kitchen fire, that's one thing. But most fires are what I would say start out in a smoldering state, then it burns. But either one you're not going to go wrong with. Again, you'll see these different ones. I say go with photoelectric. It's recommended you put this in any place where, everybody knows heat rises, right? You know heat rises? Okay. Do I want to put this down low? No, I want it high. I generally recommend you put this in any place that's high on a wall. Top of a stairwell is a great one. Any place that has something combustible. Your furnace, put one near there. Kitchen. Kitchen's a little tricky. I even burn toast. And it'll set it off. If you keep these about 7 to 8 inches from the ceiling, most of the time you're not going to trip it off. Okay? So again, look at your manufacturer's instructions. Something today I wanted to talk about too. Oh, wait, I got a couple more things here. Smoke alarms, they now make them for the hard of hearing. It only does a visual flash, but it also does like a little thump. So they're out there now. Hard of hearing. if you have a loved one who is hard of hearing or is able to, I'm going to get into something else as far as how to deal with that. Okay. Something else I want to talk to you about. A lot of people don't know about it. You hear about it all the time. It's carbon monoxide. What is that? It's half of carbon dioxide, right? Carbon dioxide's in smoke. It'll kill you. Here's an interesting number. Out of all the fire deaths, over 80% are due to inhalation of carbon monoxide or dioxide. Only 18 die from actual heat, fire. Think about that. Yeah, pretty amazing, right? You think about people dying of fire. Well, it's mostly from inhalation. Sad story, true story. My sister's, one of her good friends, is about 5 years ago, went up to visit her brother and his wife up home, and died in a fire. I said, wow, how did that happen? Didn't they have an alarm? They said, yeah, they did on the first floor, but not on the second floor where their rooms were, so they slept through it and died from inhalation. So key is, make sure smoke alarms are where you can hear them. It's no good if it's in the basement, if you're sleeping on the second floor, right? We generally recommend that you have a smoke alarm near every sleeping area in your house. So something to think about. It's not pretty, I get it. You know, your risk of having a house fire, probably more of a risk getting hit by a car, but they save lives, it's been proven. Anyhow, back to carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is formed when you have the incomplete burning of fossil fuels. Okay? So fossil fuels, coal. Corporal, how you doing? Good to see you, man. I'm setting the bar high. Incomplete burning of fossil fuels. What is a fossil fuel? Coal? Oil? Natural gas? When that doesn't burn all the way, okay, you have incomplete burning, you create carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is odorless. It doesn't smell. It's always in the air, but there's concentrations of it. Carbon monoxide attaches to your blood cells and robs it of its oxygen. How do you know when you have carbon monoxide poisoning? You'll have a headache, you'll feel disoriented, you'll feel nauseated. You'll actually have, but you're not going to smell it, you're not going to know it. Okay? Carbon monoxide, again, where do you put a carbon monoxide detector? Near something that might not burn a fossil fuel. A furnace is a great place. Now, unlike a smoke detector, which you want high, because remember heat rises, carbon monoxide is pretty ambient in the air. It's just about the weight of air, so it's not going to rise, it's not going to fall, it's going to be everywhere. It's generally recommended you put it at about 5 foot. I know that doesn't look pretty in your living room, but again, you make a decision. So again, carbon monoxide, not a lot of people understand it, but I will tell you, we get it a lot around here. I'm going to tell you we at least get 24 calls a year. And it's been a couple years since somebody's died, but again, think about it. It happens when you're sleeping. Same thing with the smoke alarm. It's recommended you have every one of these near a sleeping area.
Can I ask a question?
You know, I'm going to be taking questions at the end, so I appreciate that if you want to hold on to that. Where's my timekeeper? She had to leave. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what then. I want to keep moving along here, and I will answer questions then right at the end. Another thing too is extinguisher. Again, put an extinguisher where you have the highest risk of having a fire. A garage, a kitchen, a workshop, maybe a shed. I can tell you personally, I have an extinguisher in my bedroom. Why? It's not for the reasons you might think, so just, you gotta watch this guy, man. Alright, if I'm in a fire, if there's a fire in my house and I'm sleeping, this gives me a fighting chance to getting out. That's something. Sprinkler systems. More and more with your newer housing, they're forcing that. Sprinkler systems are real effective. Again, they don't look pretty, but they're real effective. Okay. Now let's talk worst case scenario. You get a fire in your house. Okay. Oh, one other thing too I want to mention. Good for prevention. Go to sleep at night, shut your doors. What we talked about earlier, Most of the time you get it from sleeping. 10 minutes, gotcha. All right, you got your door shut, you give yourself a better chance of not breathing in the carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. Shutting the doors, believe it or not. All right, so let's talk worst case scenario. There's a fire in your house, okay? I want to tell you, and if you guys want to come down to our open house October 12th, we're going to do it. We're going to have a house about 10 by 10 by 10, we're going to set it on fire. That will burn in less than 4 minutes. The average house fire, the room and contents will burn in under 5 minutes. Wow, that sounds quick, right? Why is it? That sounds odd. Why does that happen? Well, think about the construction of your new houses, especially. Cheaper materials, and most of your contents are made of oil-based products. You get natural products like cotton, fibers, wood, everything else, it'll burn much slower. In fact, an older house takes twice as long to burn than a new house. Why? Get those old wood beams, really hard to burn. This other stuff is glue lamb. And what happens when you put water on glue? Falls apart. New houses are very dangerous in that regard. Okay? So, something I want to encourage every one of you to do, and I have some materials downstairs as well, is make a plan for your house if there's an emergency, especially if you have kids. Okay? Again, time is essential. The average room will burn up and you will not survive in 5 minutes. Think about that. So make an escape plan for your family and practice it. A couple hints. Keep your door shut at night when you're sleeping. Make sure everybody has 2 means of escape. Even if it's a window 2 stories up, it's a way out. I'd rather break my leg than not make it. Think about that. Okay. I can tell you a big problem around here with older houses. We had one up in Chambers Hill about 8 years ago. It was on a fire. Windows were nailed shut. I got in big trouble because I blew out a window. The chief yelled at me. I'm like, nobody could get out. It was getting hot. Fire was coming up the steps. Make sure if you have 2 means of escape, you can get out. Don't expect a little kid to break a window. It's a lot to ask. Okay? When you leave a burning house, close all your doors. You know why? You compartmentalize. You're shutting that off from an area that's hot. Less chance of it burning quicker. Shut your doors. Make sure you have a common meeting place. And again, I encourage you guys to practice this. Get a common meeting place. Say, kids, if this happens, we're going to be at this tree out in front of our house. No exceptions. Because I'll tell you what, the first thing I'm going to do when I pull up on a fire and say, is everybody out of the house? Where are they at? Okay? Don't worry about your house. That's replaceable. People aren't. And one thing, and I've done it with my family, they're now out, thank God, bless them. But when they live at home, we practice. I practice at night. Very rarely you're going to have a fire during the day. You're at work, kids are at school. Practice at night. So a couple other things, as far as, things for survival. They have ladders now for kids. You can attach them to the bottom of their bed. It's a chain ladder. Open the window, they throw it out. Okay? You've heard about stop, drop, and roll? That only works when you're on fire. We don't want you to be on fire, so do something before that, okay? Cover yourself up. Cover yourself with a blanket. Cover your face. Any way you're breathing. If you're breathing in less carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, you give yourself a chance. Covering your face. Okay? Again, remember the first thing I said, heat rises, right? Smoke rises in a fire, because smoke's hot too, right? So it rises. And again, if you come down and watch us burn this little house, you're going to see about 2 foot of a layer where you can crawl and still get some oxygen. So when you hear people talking about crawling, staying low, that's why. Remember, heat rises. It takes the oxygen with it, it's burning. Stay as low as possible, you still have a chance. If you can't get out, I will tell you the hardest thing as a firefighter is doing search. I can't see things most of the time. People are freaking out. I don't know where little Jimmy is, etc. Best thing you can do for yourself is make yourself seen and heard. Break a window. Bust the house. Call a cell phone. Anything you can do to be recognized. Very important. Another thing, a lot of people don't think about it. I'm pulling up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired. There's a fire. Maybe it's not evident from the street. You know one of the hardest things we have? Corporal, you might see this too, is where's your street address? Some houses don't have it. 633 Clearfield. I don't see that. We'll be driving up and down your street. Lights on in the morning. So really important to make sure your house number is displayed. People don't think about that as well. And one rule I always tell you, and I get it, nobody wants to lose a loved one. Pets are a big thing too. Don't ever go back in the house. Once you've come out, your survival rate drops by half if you go back in. I know it sounds sort of morbid, but it's true. But if you practice fire safety, that's a big way to make sure you're at least preventing it. So, folks, I really appreciate your time today. How much time I got?
You can wrap it up any time within the next
5 minutes. Okay. I will be downstairs for the remainder of the day at the Caring Place table, where my friends as well. I'll talk to you about that if you want me to. If you have any questions, come down and see me. I have 5 minutes to answer some questions right now if anybody has one. Sir, did you still have a question?
Yeah, on the carbon monoxide detector. I have mine's electric. I have it plugged in to the outlet right next to a return airflow. I live in a ranch house down here.
Okay.
And I just want to know if that's where I should have it.
That's a really good point. So keep in mind, carbon monoxide is not really heavier or lighter than air. It's about the same weight as air, and it's everywhere. But I will tell you this, if you have concentrations of carbon monoxide, it will be where there's an airflow. So coming out of a vent, it'll be pushing all that through. It'll still be sucking it out of the air and pushing it through, as opposed to sort of being in this big open room. Okay. So there is always CO in the air. I would say the way a lot of these alarms are calibrated, if you have it near there and there is a higher concentration, that's a good thing. I will also tell you if you have it, it's not near an airflow, it's not near a fan or a vent, and it goes off, that's a bad thing. That means it's higher, it usually concentrates again where your